Good morning, everyone. I see that it's a couple of minutes after 9 o'clock here. So Andy and Paul, should we go ahead and get started?
Yes.
Fantastic. Welcome, everyone. Good morning and good evening, depending upon where you're calling in from. We welcome you to our session here to learn a little bit more about OCDC's ICRG's Resource Center. We're excited to share with you some information that might make this a useful landing spot for you as you continue your kind of journey learning about cooperatives, promoting cooperative development, learning about some of the enabling and disabling features of cooperative law. All these things require some knowledge, and we hope that we can offer you that with this resource center. Let me go ahead and move to the next slide, if I may. We have a few housekeeping items for you all. We welcome you in multiple languages today. We have English here on the main channel and Spanish and French. If you go to the bottom of your screen, there's a little globe, and you can request, you can select a different language group, and we have interpreters waiting in those rooms now. Please feel free to ask any questions that you may have in the language that you're most comfortable with, and we can follow along accordingly. Let me just take a moment so people can find that button on the bottom. If you have any questions, just put it in the chat. We also welcome you to introduce yourselves in the chat. It's always fun to see where people are calling in from, so please feel free. Oh, actually, we have an exercise for that, so you don't have to do that. Sorry, Solandy. That's coming up. If you have any technical issues as we're going through, if you can't hear, if there's some issue with the video, please feel free to put that in the chat. We're glad to help you make sure that you can have a full, rich experience. And of course, as we're going along, you'll see there's quite a bit of content that's going to be presented. If you have questions along the way, feel free to put them in the Q&A or the chat, and we have some time allocated at the end of our session today to answer all those questions. And just as it looks like pretty much everyone is on mute, please keep yourself on mute, and then if you have if you're asking a question, then we'll have you come off mute, of course. So Solandy's going to offer us an experience on using Menti and have a chance to say hello to everyone. Over to you, Solandy.
Thank you, Rebecca. Hello, everyone. I'm Solandy Brown, Communications Manager for the International Cooperative Research Group, research arm of the U.S. Overseas Cooperative Development Council. Very happy and pleased to be joining you all today. Before we dive into the content, we're going to kick things off with a really fun and interactive activity using the Mentimeter app. And so we're going to use this to help get a sense of where all of you are joining us from around the world. So I just sent an invitation for you to open the Mentimeter app through the chat box. And so you can click the link in the chat to access the app directly, or if you prefer, you can use your phone to scan the QR code that has appeared on the screen. And so the question that we'd love for you to answer is, what city are you joining from? And so we have 5 great respondents here. See, there's 10 people in the app. So we see, let's see, Maryland, St. Paul, Indonesia, welcome. Nairobi, Delaware. So many great responses here. Again, keep an eye on the screen for that snapshot of our very diverse audience here. And remember, if you need help, that you can answer this question through the Zoom app or the QR code. And you can also go to www.menti.com and use the code 6788-8642. Well, great. Wow. It looks like we have attendees from all around the world. And so whether it is morning, afternoon, or evening where you are, we are so grateful for your presence and that you are here today. Our virtual gathering, it truly spans across various time zones and locations. And it's really incredible to be able to see such a diverse and engaged audience. So thank you all for taking the time to participate in this activity and be a part of this event. Now, let's continue to move forward here with the exciting content that we have lined up for you. And so I will pull the PowerPoint back up and hand it back to you, Rebecca. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Landy. Excited to see people calling in from all over the place. We welcome you. And again, it looks like there's some discussion in the chat. If you do have any issues with translation or anything like that, please let us know right away. So my name is Rebecca Savoy, and I'll be your MC for the event today. I'm a senior researcher in the International Cooperative Research Group as part of the OCDC. And the agenda today is pretty lean, but there's a lot of heavy content for you guys to get a sense of what's available for you in our resource center. We know that people are interested in really understanding what difference do cooperatives make, and we have some great material that will highlight that. You might be interested in exploring the quality of your cooperative law or looking at for a specific training tool. We're going to walk through what's available for you in our resource center today, and also hope that you stay tuned for content that might be populated as we continue to develop interesting pieces of research for your benefit. We're excited to have some opening remarks today by the head of our research group, Dr. Judith Hermanson. And so, Judith, I welcome you to open the session and get the ball rolling, as it will. Over to you, Judith. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, and a very warm welcome to all of you. I continue to be amazed by our ability these days to reach wide and widely to all corners of the earth, and it's really inspiring to have you all here. And we are particularly delighted that we can share information with you about the International Cooperative Resource Center, OCDC, and the International Cooperative Research Group's Resource Center that we think and we hope will be very useful to you as you go about your work. We want to today make you aware of the richness of the resources that are available to you and to inspire you to access them as you go about your work. It's no secret that there's loads of information around the world these days, particularly those who have access to the internet. Sometimes one might think there's an overabundance of information to do with it. So what we are trying to do at the International Cooperative Resource Center is to provide an entry point to people who work, such as yourselves, in international cooperative development. What makes this resource center different? It's all in a word, but I hope you will remember with these just very brief framing remarks that I make, and that word is craft. This word sums up the characteristics of the resource center, and I will take just a moment to go through these with you. This resource center that we'll be introducing you to subsequently contains a wide array of resources it's comprehensive. An important thing to understand is that these resources are curated. It's not just anything, do a search, anything that has cooperative in it, we put in here. No, they have been carefully curated and vetted. They're reliable thus. And so everything is backed by our research. There's some of the ICRG's original research, but also research and documents and tools and others from third parties that have been curated for the international cooperative user. Another important thing to know about this resource center is it's always expanding. You go today and there may be many more resources tomorrow. So it's not a static thing. And it's available. It's available to all of you who have internet access. We are working on ways that we can expand access to our materials otherwise, but right now this is an electronic resource center that's available to at least all of you on this call today or at this session today. It's focused on cooperatives and applicability to cooperatives. And very importantly, it's free. You don't have to be a member or pay any price at all to access the materials, to download them. Our aim is to put the best materials out there, make them available to those of you who are really making a difference working in the cooperative sector. And finally, trusted and tested materials that we put there, we stand behind. We've tested them and we trust the sources. So craft. This is to help you with your craft of cooperative development. Thanks again for being here with us today. We hope to see you often at the International Cooperative Resource Center, and we want to be your go-to place. So let us know how it's working for you, and if you have suggestions for us to improve it as we continue, hopefully in partnership and collaboration across the days and months and years to come. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Judith. Geez, it's so nice to think of a place where you can go for this cooperative information that's trusted and reliable, and all those features that you've just described. Thanks for that. Now we're going to take a dive into the center itself, everyone. So I'm going to hand it back to Solandy, and she's going to give us a sense of how we navigate and where we can find information. Looking forward to this section. Over to you, Solandy. Thanks.
Thank you, Rebecca, for the wonderful introduction. On behalf of the entire OCDC ICRG team, again, we are truly excited to introduce you to our Resource Center, a truly valuable platform that provides many great benefits to the cooperative development community. And so we can't wait to share all of its offerings with you today. So let's dive right in. So let's review the outline of today's presentation. Today we'll be covering 4 main areas to provide you with a comprehensive understanding of the Resource Center. First, we will define its purpose and its alignment with the OCDC ICRG mission and vision. Next, we will explore how the database is structured and organized. Following that, we will highlight just a few examples of the types of resources that are available, providing insight into the type of content that you can access. And lastly, we will be walking you through the functionality of the Resource Center itself, demonstrating how easy it is to access and search for the information you need on our newly enhanced and launched website. So let's begin by reflecting on what one may expect when you hear the words Resource Center. So if you were to envision what this term entails, what words would come to mind? You may think of concepts like access for all, information repository, knowledge and support hub, learning, library, and tools. These words really capture the essence of what our Resource Center embodies, being that rich repository of information and tools that cater to diverse needs. Now let's delve deeper into what the Resource Center truly is. At its core, it is a comprehensive database of knowledge housing over 300 freely accessible resources dedicated to cooperative development. As Judith mentioned, in other words, it's your go-to source for valuable insights, tools, and information that can drive the growth and success of cooperatives and cooperative development organizations around the world. OCDC has a mission to champion, advocate, and promote effective international cooperative development. We envision a world where people in all countries have the opportunity to work together through cooperatives to create a better life for themselves and their communities. The Resource Center is a tangible manifestation of our mission and vision. It stands as a testament to our commitment to cooperative development, advocating for positive change and empowering individuals to create better lives and better futures for themselves and their communities. It's important to mention here that whether you are a local co-op member, researcher, academic, government leader, policymaker, regulator, co-op business, apex organization, cooperative development organization, or funder, These resources are designed to fit your unique interests and needs. So let's move on to the structure of the Resource Center. The platform has 4 distinct filters that can help you navigate through the wealth of information that the Resource Center contains. Allow me to provide a quick overview of each of them. So first, you can filter resources by themes. These encompass key areas that mirror the ICRG's research themes, which include capacity strengthening, economic development, gender and youth, and innovation. Next, you can filter by more specific topics labeled as focus areas, which include agriculture, climate, equity, finance, governance, and more. You can also find resources by different types or in various formats, like articles, journals, reports, videos, and more. You can also filter our resources by different regions. Those include Africa, Asia Pacific, Europe, Latin America, and North America. So let's now turn our attention to some of the featured content available within the Resource Center. Although we can't cover all of the hundreds of resources that are available, we'd like to showcase a few examples now. The first one we'd like to highlight is Enabling Cooperative Development Principles for Legal Reform. This comprehensive report is one of the 4 groundbreaking reports of the Cooperative Law and Regulation Initiative, or CLARITY. It elaborates on CLARITY's principles by using analytical rubrics to assess legal environments. The report also includes cooperative member profiles that showcase impacts on legal reform, along with appendices containing cooperative history and resource references. If you missed the recent learning session on CLARITY that was held last week, be sure to check out our event landing page to revisit the session and listen to the recording. Our second featured content is the What Difference Do Cooperatives Make Global Outcomes report. What Difference Do Cooperatives Make is a 4-year research project that looks at the difference that primary cooperative societies are making in the lives of their members across 4 countries: Kenya, Peru, the Philippines, and Poland. The Global Outcomes Report draws together the key outcomes from the 4 countries and explores their implications for policy and action. Moving on to the third featured content, we have the OCDC Cooperative Governance Assessment, a user manual. This manual is a valuable resource for cooperative development organizations and international non-government organizations. It guides staff organizers and trainers in implementing tools designed to identify director training needs. Stay tuned for a learning session about this very specific tool in the fall. So our final highlighted resource is the white paper titled From the Ground Up, Partnering with Cooperatives on Locally Led Development. This paper emphasizes the role of cooperatives in empowering local communities to take ownership of their sustainable development. It highlights how cooperatives can play a pivotal role when the goal is localized, community-driven development. Now, the Resource Center isn't just a repository. It's a collection of carefully curated assets designed to enhance cooperative development programming. Now, to ensure the quality and relevance of these resources that we pull in from external third-party sources, we adhere to very specific criteria that we will be exploring one by one. So when selecting resources for the Resource Center, one of our primary considerations is the credibility of the content. This involves asking a series of crucial questions. First, we investigate the identity of the author, who they are, and what expertise they bring to the table. We delve into their credentials, qualifications, and the subject matter at hand, and their affiliation. So we're assessing whether they're associated with reputable institutions, universities, government agencies, nonprofit organizations, or corporations. And furthermore, we evaluate the credibility of the publisher or the institution who is responsible for disseminating the information in that resource. Another critical factor in our selection process is relevance. So first, we're assessing whether the content is pertinent to the objectives of cooperative development programming. Moreover, we're evaluating if the information presented is current and up to date. So in cases where the need for current information is not crucial, we consider the historical significance of the content. The goal is to provide you with resources that are not only informative, but also directly applicable to the realities of cooperative development efforts. So as we curate resources, objectivity plays a pivotal role in ensuring the integrity of the content. We are striving to provide resources that are unbiased and distinguish between content that presents opinions and that which presents factual information. Now, this distinction helps ensure that users are provided with accurate and reliable insights. We're also assessing the source of the information to gauge its reliability. This really also extends to this consideration of whether the information has undergone peer review, making sure it's being evaluated by experts in the field. Now, for data-driven resources, we also are analyzing the research methodology and the validity of the data that's being presented, because we strive to provide resources that are balanced, credible, and trustworthy. So we also place a great importance on a resource's verifiability, and this really ensures that the resources we provide are substantiated by credible evidence, facts, and reliable resources. We check whether the resource includes references such as citations, footnotes, or bibliography that can direct users to the sources supporting the claims and the information that is presented. We're evaluating whether the data presented can be cross-referenced and verified through trustworthy sources, either external to the resource or through the ICRG's own established research and experience. And lastly, for resources that introduce tools or methodologies, we're also looking into who has employed these tools. What's the manner in which they were implemented, and what were some of the outcomes that were achieved? This really provides a practical understanding of the utility and effectiveness of the tools that have been suggested within a particular resource. And finally, as mentioned before, we place a very strong emphasis on the research and the resource's actionability. To do this, we assess whether the key information within a resource is well organized and effectively communicated so that all users can easily understand and utilize the insights provided. Additionally, we're evaluating the language and the terminology used in the resource to ensure that it is accessible to a wide range of users. And lastly, we're really striving to see whether the approaches, interventions, or suggestions presented in the resources are replicable. This really ensures that the users can put those insights into action and achieve tangible outcomes and results within their programs. We're aiming to equip users not only with resources that inform, again, but also trying to equip them with resources that empower them to drive meaningful change and progress in their work. So let's turn now to accessing the Resource Center itself. Now, please note that while we will be exploring the Resource Center from a desktop computer today, it is equally accessible on your mobile devices. The direct link to the Resource Center is found on the screen, but I will now be pulling up the OCDC homepage, and I'll be sharing here how you can actually access the Resource Center itself. Give me one moment and pull this up. All right. Okay, so welcome to OCDC's new site. So from the homepage, you can actually access the Resource Center directly in one of two ways. So you can first scroll down to the center of the page until you see this blue block here under the ICRG section. And so you can click any of these links directly to go to the Resource Center, but also no matter where you are on the site, you can go to the main menu that's located here at the top of the screen, click on Our Work, and then click Resource Center under the Research and Learning section. So as soon as you get to the Resource Center, you can click Start Here for just a brief overview of what you can expect to see and find. But below this, you can start to see the 4 filters that we talked about before: theme, focus area, type, and region, along with a very robust keyword search functionality that you can also use to find resources. So at the bottom of the page here, you can start to see a comprehensive review of all of the resources that are available. And as you may notice, the ICRG authored sources have the ICRG marking in a light blue, so they are very easy to identify. But you can also see the type of resource noted in blue at the top of the resource thumbnail, the title of the resource below the thumbnail, and all of the relevant tags that are included, whether it's a theme, focus area, or region. So let's explore one of these resources. Let's look at the Climate Finance Report. This research was actually in high demand by OCDC members who wanted to better understand the environmental and climate finance landscape. So if I want to access the document, I would simply click the thumbnail and I will be directed to the resources page, which includes its description. So for ICRG resources, we do ask a few questions before you download the form, and we ask this information so that we can help you tailor content design for you, gather your feedback, and also work to build a more engaged and connected community around the Resource Center. So let's do a sample to see how this works. So I'll fill in just my name, last name, organization, email, find my country here. Just going to pick an organization type. Pick the one that's best fitting for your organization. I'm just going to say Apex organization for now, and the intended use of the resource. And so I'll just pick policy research for right now. So after you fill out this form, you can then click download, and it will load the view resource button. And so once you click this, you have full access to the resource and PDF. And as you find valuable resources, we really encourage you to consider bookmarking them or saving their links. This way, you can easily revisit them without needing to search and download them again. So let's go back to the main screen now of the Resource Center. So as noted, the ICRG has blue marking in the back, but our third-party resources simply have the white background. So let's check out this article here from USAID. So you'll see that our third-party resources do not have a download form, but it still includes a description and a direct link to the article, journal, etc., that you can click here and access the resource. So let's explore now very quickly the keyword search functionality. So in one of our previous learning sessions, the cooperative principles were a very popular topic. So let's type this in now to see what we get. So I see a large number of clarity resources here, especially ones that are in different languages. We also have this really great resource that serves as a guide for electric cooperative development and rural electrification from NRECA International, one of our members. And so we have a large number of options here. Now, let's say you come to the Resource Center as a local co-op member, and you're trying to find information and tools to better your remote learning experience. So we wanted to show this also a really neat tool here, a really dynamic portal for e-learning that we encourage you to explore. I'll go ahead and open this now so that you can see it. But there are 12 modules here that you can complete, which really serve as a training program on remote management and collaboration tools, techniques, and strategies. And so it's a really great training resource that we encourage you to check out here. So we encourage you to experiment. Typically, if your initial search, if it doesn't yield your desired results, try different approaches. But remember, specifically for this keyword search functionality, this is a keyword search. It's not a phrase search. So if I type in, for instance, a really great resource about governance, right, it's not going to give me the results that I'm looking for. But if I simply type in governance, it will yield more search results. So remember that a general rule with the search functionality is to start broad and then go narrow. So as another example, if I type in cooperatives, for instance, I have over 9 pages of resources to sort through, but I can add a filter to my keyword. So let's say I want to look for cooperatives in agriculture, right? And so once I do this, I start to get more specified results, which is what we're looking for. So we encourage you to explore the center and the new OCDC website, because we have our resources intertwined really all throughout the site that will lead you back to the resource center itself. So I'm going to now pull back up our main presentation here. Thank you all again so much for your time. We're really, really excited to be able to share this platform, and we look forward to your feedback as you continue to use it. I'll hand it back over to you, Rebecca. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Solandy. That was a lot of wonderful information. It's kind of makes me think for our colleagues calling in from the Philippines, if they're interested in looking at, if they're based in Manila and they have some work with dairy co-ops in Mindanao, it's really cool to think of these e-learning tools that they could access through that. Or I was looking at, we have folks on the call from Oregon where there's a lot of rural electric co-ops. If they are interested, maybe they've just bought a house and they're interested in learning more about what it means to be a member, to live in an area with rural electric co-ops there. You know, and Judith and I were actually just in Kenya, and boy, Kenya is a really exciting cooperative environment, and our resource on what difference do cooperatives make gives some deep, insights about how the cooperative movement has really impacted a lot of people, a lot of sectors, empowerment for women, and many other things that can be found there, both as users, but also as advocates. So thanks for that. It does take some time, I think, for people. I hope they can find a few minutes to, after this presentation, for everyone on the call, to just take a minute and kind of look around and see what piques your interest initially. So thanks for that. We also have done some really interesting work on tools, and our learning and training manager, Barbara, is going to go through a little bit about what we've learned from our review and thought on some of the tools and resources that she has taken a look at, including resilience and looking at the cooperative principles and other things. So let me just take pause for a moment and let everyone sort of, stretch their shoulders, and then hand it over to you, Barbara, for the next section of our presentation here. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Well, we've gone through 2 weeks of sessions. We had a session in the end of July, and last week we had a session specifically focused on clarity. So what I wanted to offer is just a couple of observations based on different comments and voices that we have heard over those last 2 sessions. And these really pertain to all kinds of tools understood as materials, educational materials, that cover a broad spectrum of cooperative development, anywhere from very broad concepts of what cooperatives are, all the way to very narrowly focused issues or sector-specified types of materials. And the first reflection that comes into mind is that there is a lot out there. There is a lot out there. We have received information based on just the registration of our colleagues to participate in the sessions, a list of all kinds of tools that these individuals and their organizations use in the course of their work. But there are certain observations that were made during those last sessions and certain questions that were raised that are extremely pertinent to all kinds of those tools. And I just want to bring back some of those comments because I think they are extremely important and relevant. So the first question that comes into mind is, how accessible are these materials? Where are they for someone who is looking for them? And, are they translated into languages other than English? Are they only available in that particular language? Are they tailored or adapted to specific context in which cooperative organizations are functioning, the cultural context, the social context? These are all extremely pertinent questions, as well as what was also mentioned. Do these different types of tools really respond to the needs of organizations and their members? So, and among the questions that were also posed was the questions of outside assistance. It seems there is a great need for tools that are relatively easily available, but also that do not require outside assistance. It's not necessarily always possible to do that. And the great example, is the session on clarity that we have heard last week. We know, and we were appraised of the general intention of this tool to help cooperative community engage in legal reform. But of course, legal eagles need to be a part of that as well, because they are hopefully helping the cooperative community find proper solutions and phrase those proper solutions in a way that will actually contribute to the enabling environment. So in a sense, we do want the different tools to be available and to be used without outside assistance, but this has to be balanced out with the actual needs and purposes and intentions of the tools involved. But another related question that was also asked was about the technology that is needed to apply the tools. This may be not so easy to answer in some cases because of the costs that may be involved and related to the technology. So it's another element that needs to be kept in mind. One of the previous sessions, there was a very important comment and observation made about the use of cooperative principles. Are the cooperative principles really well known and understood by cooperative members? And underlying questions, are they used in operations of the cooperative? And I think this is one of the fundamental questions, simply because it has to be a part of all our work. So these are just examples of some of the questions that were brought up, and the diversity that needs to be addressed by all of us who work on tools and who want them to be accessible and usable and actionable for all. I want to finish at this moment and invite everyone to also comment and provide additional inputs to our session. Please, Rebecca, back to you.
Thanks so much, Barbara. That was really interesting to hear about some of the takeaways that we've gleaned from these sessions that you've hosted over the past couple of months. I'd like to open up the floor for some comments. You know, it would be interesting to learn what you gleaned from our sessions so far, maybe where you currently go for your cooperative resources. I might just call in a few people. I have on my screen here, I see, oh, great, thanks for switching to that view. I see Russell Baltimore from the Philippines, Asata Richards, who was with us at the last meeting. Please, I welcome you to offer some comments on the session today, or on some information about where you currently look for your cooperative resources. Oh, now I see everyone. I can see lots of people. Please.
Hi. So one, I am, and I started this work as a researcher,
Okay.
as a sociologist, and working with MIT CoLab, looking for strategies for community wealth building. And so, you know, I think there's a lot of value added to having a resource center. And I think, you know, I'm always struggling to understand, how do we make this work accessible to the community members who need it? I think you heard me say in my first session around the professionalization of cooperative development that has moved it out of the hands of the people who are most impacted and have the needs in which cooperatives are trying to solve. So one, you know, really support this kind of training, but also more popular education that really helps people use research and use evidence to really develop an argument or position for themselves and their community members, as well as nonprofits, right? Nonprofits have an important role to play in this work of cooperative development, and those nonprofit leaders need to be educated and informed about these upstream strategies. So I'm continuing to look for that. My one request is around race. It always boggles my mind as a sociologist that we don't specify race when the racial caste system is what the whole world is dealing with on a global scale. And just to put in a country versus thinking about what research is based on, you know, the racial differences and characteristics of cooperative development, because we know from Dr. Jessica Gordon-Nimhart that race and how we understand race is important for successful cooperative development. So I'd employ an exploration of race on the categories.
Well, thank you for that. And thanks for your comments. I too have a background in rural sociology, actually, so I appreciate that lens that you bring. I think a lot of the work that we're thinking about, you know, using that localization piece and looking at the political economy allows for some of that, you know, it's the members themselves that can drive some of those pieces. But you're very right. A lot of the cooperative development organizations, a lot of the donors, foundations, sometimes even governments may not be fully aware of kind of how that cooperative collectively owned, controlled, and benefiting structure is meant to use. So point well taken. And I hope you do take a peek in the resource library, Asata, because there are some resources that might speak to the things that you're thinking about, specifically looking at race. Thank you for that. And thank you for your continued participation. Others, I see Jane, Ramey, I'm just looking at names on Terry, Alicia, please, you're welcome to jump in with any questions or comments.
Hi there, this is Jane Scher. I'll jump in very quickly. So I'm not
Thank you.
new to the donor world in terms of general development, international development, but I'm new to the different tools that are used specifically for cooperative development. So I've come to the series to kind of pick up and learn from the larger group of people that have worked with cooperatives for a really long time. One thing that I struggle with, including through the Resource Center, is just very simple, basic tools for things like capacity assessments, templates that cooperatives can use to maybe self-evaluate their own progress or to develop a capacity strengthening plan, something like that, just examples that then each organization, each cooperative can tailor and modify to meet their needs. It's very challenging to find those. Most organizations have created them for themselves, but if you're just kind of starting out and figuring out, it'd be nice to, you don't always have access to those. Sometimes they are, held within the organization itself. So just to see some of the most simplistic, basic tools would be really helpful to people, especially if they're just starting the process. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jane. We appreciate that. The cooperative business model is different than an LLC or a sole proprietorship. When you have collective ownership, it requires a different way of thinking about how does that, what does that mean in terms of management and, decision making and planning and all that. So please have a look in the library and feel free to send a note to our team, because we certainly can point you in the direction of a few of those early stage tools that look at, governance, finance, management, operations, some member engagement, some of those key tenets that need to be considered for those early stage cooperatives. So please drop us a line, Jane, and thank you for your interest in looking at cooperatives as an international development practitioner. We certainly appreciate that and welcome your continued participation.
Thank you, Rebecca.
You bet. Others, please, I welcome you. Cynthia?
Oh, Rebecca. I really appreciated Asada's, and if I just butchered your name, I so apologize. Outlook. I come at this from an economist lens. My training is labor economics. I work in an ag econ department at a university. So that's the lens I look at cooperative development, which of course in the US, ag co-ops are our most abundant type of cooperative. I love the part of cooperative development that talks about economic need. And I try to translate that into, as an economist, into we're not just fulfilling an economic need, but something that's on your website, as a matter of fact, when you talk about cooperative values, self-help, self-responsibility, democracy, equality, equity, and solidarity. Those are our values. So it's not just about making a lot of money as a corporation. It's about fulfilling an economic need for a group of people while respecting that group of people, their needs, their motivations, their belief systems. We're all unique and different. And I think within research, when we forget to look through that scope, whether it's a race scope as Asada put out, or even a location scope, and I'm going to apologize, my dog's going to think you want to talk to him here in a minute. But I love that about this research, is looking at it globally. And it's really helped me as an economist, I think, become better at my job by looking at it through the cooperative value statements.
Well, I think that that's great. And those principles are the values in action, right? So we're always thinking about we value social capital as much as we do economic capital in the cooperative business model. Everybody on the screen, we can all be members of a dairy co-op, for example, and we can choose to allocate our profits to maybe invest in a school in our community. We can make that choice. It's very powerful. It's a very different type of business model, and I agree with you. We shouldn't neglect the ownership, what sort of responsibility and opportunity that collectively owned structure offers. So thank you for those comments, and thank you for your participation. It's fun to see all these different voices. we have run out of time for our Q&A session here. And so I would like to, let's see, I think I'm going to, any last, maybe I should offer any last questions. Please email us. We encourage your participation. I see Timothy and Herrera. Oh, Tim has put his hand down. Please continue to be in touch. We want this to be a conversation as these tools are more used. As you use them, let us know how it went. You know, if you see a resource that was particularly of interest to you, let us know. We really appreciate the conversation and discussion. Hetty, let me maybe email you separately if that's okay. And I'm going to hand this over to Paul for closing remarks, if that is all right. Over to you, Paul. He's our Executive Director of OCDC, who will close us out today. Over to you, Paul.
Yeah, thanks, Rebecca. It's great to be here again today. OCDC's mission is to champion, advocate, and promote effective international cooperative development. And this resource center is fulfilling that mission, making sure that people around the world have the tools and the information and the knowledge to promote effective international cooperative development. So we're very pleased to be able to provide this resource to cooperative developers around the world. And I would encourage you to share this with your colleagues to make sure that we're being as effective as we can. This can save time, can save you money, and can make better cooperative development. So please use this resource, share it with others, give us feedback on how we can improve it, what we can add. And so I just want to thank the OCDC staff who have put together this series of webinars around educational materials and information. Thank them for all their hard work and the quality of the programs that they provided. As Judith mentioned at the beginning, the Resource Center is a craft, comprehensive, reliable, always expanded, focused, and trusted. And I think that's a very important aspect of this resource, that you can trust the information that you're gathering and that you're using in your cooperative development. So once again, thank you all for participating. Thank you, the OCDC staff, for a great program again. And please provide any feedback to us. We're always anxious to chat with people around the world and how we can help them be more effective in their cooperative development activities. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Paul. We have just a minute left. And before people sign off, what do you think? Do we try for a picture?
Yes, let's do it. Let's do
All right,
it.
everybody, let's see your smiling faces on camera. Oh, there's everybody. It's so nice to see people. Great, thanks. I see Jane and Karma. Great. There's Virginia. Hey, Virginia. All right, nice. There's Toki. Hi, Toki. Oh, from Madagascar. Well, we've got people calling in from everywhere here. So nice. All right. I'll hand it over to you, Solandy, to make this picture work.
Thanks, Rebecca. Since we have many participants on, I'll take 2 photos to capture both screens. So everyone could just smile for the first picture. Okay, I'll save this. Give me 1 second to save this photo. All right, and if everyone can smile just one more time, because you may be on the second screen. Great, thank you all so much.
Great, thanks. And don't forget to take a few minutes if you can today to take a little peek in the resource library to navigate those things that piqued your interest, except for Manuel, who seems to be driving. He'll have to wait till he gets to his destination to do that. So thanks, everyone. Much appreciated. All the best, and we'll see you next time.